Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning here on Channels Television. And just before that break, I was saying that electronic transactions in Nigeria for 2022 are actually more than 100% increase compared to the previous year at 3.5 billion naira, making Nigeria the 6th globally when it comes to electronic transactions. So this has been attributed to various policies by the Central Bank of Nigeria to boost cashless economy. The latest, of course, is what we discussed before the break. You know, that redesigned naira, mopping up of cash, and the crunch that people have been feeling. Well, to help us see what to expect by the end of this year, we have joining us in the studio Yinka Jones, researcher with African Cities Research Consortium, shares his perspective on the success or otherwise of this. Hi, Yinka, good morning.
Good morning.
So how much cash do you have these days?
I'm actually cashless.
Okay, you've been cashless for a while. You don't do cash?
Well, not cashless in the sense that I do only electronic transactions. I actually don't have cash, really.
Intentionally or?
Well, it's not intentionally. I mean, the other day I went out to buy some stuff, but I couldn't. I went to buy groceries. Myself and my wife went to buy, but we couldn't buy anything. I mean, I can't take public transportation. I mean, no, because I don't have cash. So
why don't you do the transfer and
you know the old story. It's hard now to get through with transactions, with online transactions. It's very, very difficult now. I think that's one of the things we are going to be looking at today. It's very difficult. Even USSD you can't do. So, I mean,
what do you think happened? I mean, because the CBN is pushing for a cashless policy. If Nigeria is a giant of Africa, and we have countries like in East Africa, Kenya, doing so well with their M-Pesa, and you know, even if you wanted to buy tomatoes, you could do it electronically. Why are we behind?
Now, thank you very much for that question. There are several reasons actually for that. We have to be able to look at things holistically. I think what we do, or what the CBN has actually done in this instance, is to kind of make the policy. However, they have not looked at several elements. They have not looked at it holistically to figure out those elements that are needed in that system to make it work. Okay, you've made a policy, but it's not enough to just make a policy. Some things have to drive that policy. Some elements, if you look at it as a system, there are some elements in that system that actually have to make this thing work. For example, the banks are actually part of that system. Do they have that capacity to make things work? For example, the IT infrastructure. Now, we're talking about cashless, so people have to leave their cash and go cashless, right? Now, but we have to understand the implication of that. It implies that people will have to there's going to be more volume of online transaction, of internet transaction, mobile transactions. But do the banks have the capacity, the IT infrastructure to really kind of to cater for this, to be able to carry this? It's like now, you have a tab, I have a phone. My phone has a limited amount of gigabytes. If I'm to increase my gigabyte, if I'm to kind of, if I need a data that is more than that gigabyte, then I have to upgrade my phone. But the banks don't actually have the capacity to cater for the volume of online or mobile transactions. So we have to look at all these key elements to be able to know, do they have the capacity? An example, other instance is, look at the skills. I think it's high time we start looking at things, holistically. Just have a system, and that system approach to things really. Now, what happens in what happens to an element in the system actually has a ripple effect on other elements. When we look at this issue with this, from this perspective, it helps us a lot.
But you know, just before you go on, when you talk about skills, my mind goes to the quality of ICT skills Nigeria has lost at this time.
Exactly.
So does it mean that is that why we're facing some of the things we're facing when it comes to electronic transactions, especially with the banks? Does it have to do with that? Or even if that did not happen, we didn't have the degree or the amount of people who have left the country, would we still have had, you know, a situation where we have failed transactions?
Well, like I've said earlier, there are so many factors that actually comes to play when it comes to this. In this scenario, there are so many factors. However, that skill is a factor. Take it out, other factors actually come to play. However, it plays a very, very important fact, it plays a very, very important part. Now, if you look at it now, most of the banks don't have the high city units in all the branches. They are regionalized. So they have, but there's a dearth of skills in Nigeria. Even though the ones that are available actually are moving abroad. So there's that dearth of skilled labor. And for example, this cashless policy actually has to do, it needs some reprogramming of the ATM because, there's a specific amount, there's a cap to the amount of naira that you can actually get per day. So there's that cap. That means that all the ATMs have to be reprogrammed. Do they have the manpower to reprogram across?
But we have high unemployment in Nigeria.
Yes.
Can they not be trained to fill in this?
That takes a process. That takes a process. I'm talking about high city skills. It doesn't come like overnight. It's high skilled kind of environment. So you need that level of competence. If it is something that you can do overnight, then it's fine. But this can't be done overnight. So, that's one of the, negative impact of this whole mass exodus.
Well, the fact, what does an economy gain in going cashless? Why should we be pursuing this cashless policy vigorously as it seems that the CBN wants us to?
Now, I think there are so many benefits to the cashless policy. CBN has come out to kind of state it openly that it will help to kind of mop up all the excess cash that are outside the banking vault or the banking system. They said about 80% of Nigerian cash actually is not within the banking sector. So to help to mop up all these monies. And also it will help to check corruption. You can actually, because you can trace where the money is and where the money is going, you can trace. And it also help to kind of check, all the crimes and criminalities going on in town. Now you can actually check when you have a cashless policy. So there's so many benefits. There's so many benefits to it. However, the question is it really achieving that? Because there's so much of ECOP now that, the immediate impact is swallowing up the long-term benefits.
We've been told that, there's a price to pay for everything. We heard the Minister of Finance say it's transient. We've heard the CBN governor say that also. So it's just the price to pay for a brighter tomorrow. Is it worthwhile?
It is, but do we really need to go through the hassle?
What should we have done if we wanted to avoid this?
This is planning. You want to. It's a transition phase, right? It's a transition. You're transitioning from one phase to another. And it needs adequate planning. Yes, we can actually bear if it is not really our fault. We can actually bear. I understand that every change that comes with pain is understandable. But is it needful? Could it have been done better? Could it have been kind of soft landing for the people? Yes, I think so. If it was well and more holistically planned. Yeah, if I've put in consideration so many other factors that actually come to play in this, if I've considered its impact on all the other sectors, because most of this, like I've said, one thing, an output from one system actually affects other system in the system, and that's how things run. So it's not enough for us to just look at things in silos or look at things in isolation. You have to look at its impact on other areas and be able to kind of look at ways to ameliorate those impacts so that it doesn't bear too much on the people.
And then we still have some Nigerians outside banking talking about financial inclusion now. I've heard of stories now that people actually prefer to keep their cash at home now, instead of taking it to the bank, because at least when it's in your house, then you can access it. But of course, you also expose yourself to insecurity, and we don't want those days when armed robbers used to visit people at home to come. But how do you think it can be accelerated, getting those people in the rural areas, those down there in the social ladder, to believe and trust the banking system enough to get their data and be included in the banking system?
Great question. Now, over 60% of Nigerians actually work in the informal sector. And these are the large chunk that are kind of excluded financially. And unfortunately, most of them are women, really. So, Nigeria, we should not deny the fact that the economy is still cash based mostly. So we shouldn't deny that fact. It's largely, we are largely cash dependent. So, and like I've said, most people would rather hold their money, for example, now. In fact, to have money, to have cash now, it's like a big investment. It's like a big asset, really, because you can actually trade and make more money from what you have. You know, I was at the filling station some time back, and it was funny the way that thing, the economy now kind of, the economy around cash. You have to buy. The filling station are not, they're not accepting card, and they're not accepting transfer. So they collect the cash. They collect the cash, and in return sell it to ATM. The ATM sell it to us. That was what happened right before me. They sell it to me, and I pay. And that's how it goes. It keeps circling.
Then we just spoke to the mobile money agent. Now they charge you for that.
They charge. And it's not
because the filling station is also charging them.
I'm paying 2 times now. I have to pay the filling station. I have to pay the ATM, the ATM operators. I have to pay them, and it's not cheap. 1,000 naira. For 1,000 naira, for 1,000 naira, you pay like 200 naira also. For 5,000 naira, I paid 1,000 naira. Yeah. For 10,000 naira, it was 2,000 naira. That's exorbitant. And in some places, you even get more. You have to pay more. So,
Chef, we certainly cannot continue like this.
We can't really. We can't.
We cannot continue like this. I mean, you have to pay for naira. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it's something we have to continue. But well, we'll keep talking about it as the media and see how it goes. Well, thank you so much, Yinka Jones, a researcher with African Cities Research Consortium. Thank you so much. We do hope to get those skills back or train the new ones and get our bank apps working, because if we want to do cashless, then we certainly need a place to go to. We have the e-naira. We're not hearing a lot about it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you.
All right.